Welcome, Nancy Fairchild, to my podcast. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Thank you for inviting me.
There's definitely it's so crazy. There's a connection, and it's just so weird because you have a Scorpio stellium, right?
Oh, big time. Yes, I do.
What house is it in again?
The 11th.
Girl, isn't that the house of community?
It is. It is.
I love it. It's
It
something
is.
about like water signs, like Scorpio and Pisces are like, but anyway,
Yep.
thank you for joining. I'm
Thank
so excited. You have an amazing gift. How would you describe that?
An unfurling is how I would describe that. Um,
Okay.
so I have a lot of clairs. I have clairsentience, I have
Mm-hmm.
cognizance, I have clairgustance, and I also have this really uncanny knack of smelling things out. This really uncanny knack. I used to think I was crazy. I would ask people, "Do you smell that?" And they would be like, "No." And a couple minutes later would go by, and then whatever I was smelling would catch up with other people's sense of smell. And so it started out on a very physical level of, "Do you smell that?"
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it really developed into I would be around people and be like, that don't smell right to me.
Mm-hmm.
It don't smell right to me. Somebody might be speaking to me and I would be like, that don't smell right. Like that's just, and it was always coming through smell. So it took me a little while to realize that that's actually a very real thing. In human design, gate 44, that gate actually is the energy of that. And I have that gate in my human design chart. So um,
Wow.
I was super glad when I started learning human design because it started making so much make sense to me in
Mm-hmm.
ways that prior to that I kind of felt isolated and maybe a little alone in um, because I had some experiences that I yet hadn't met other people who had the same gifts or
Yeah.
abilities. And so that was a little isolating at times. So I
How did like how did the smelling like manifest? Like was it just like were you connecting with spirit or was it like Nancy, there's something going on here?
It's a something's off, Nancy. There's something off.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay, okay.
there's something off. This doesn't smell good. And it was a distinct feeling within myself, but it was a distinct smell. But it was like, when we have clairvoyancy, it's not like we're seeing with our physical eyes,
Hmm.
we're seeing with our mind's eye, right? Some
Yes.
people do
Hmm.
have a very
Yeah.
rare gift of physically seeing it, but
Hmm.
most people see it in their mind's eye. And for me, it was exactly like that, except for with a sense of smell. I would be like, all of a sudden, like I would just get this off sense of smell inside of
Yeah.
myself. Be like, that don't smell right. And so like it's really kind of funny. I joke around because I'm a dog in Chinese zodiac. And so like I really joke around
Okay.
about how I got the sniffer of the dog, right? Like I really do smell when things are off. So so it's a
Oh my God.
combination of a lot. And I was born an empath and always knew that there was something that I was feeling that other people did not or was not aware of. And as I got older and started learning and meeting more people, I also began to realize that I'm a geomancy empath and I have a unique relationship with Mother Earth and her weather patterns and the patterns of the energy. And
Mm.
to be honest, I haven't done a whole lot with that other than
Hmm.
know when the storms are coming and what type of storms are coming. Because I feel
Okay.
it translates inside my body as what that pattern would be like. It's hard to describe. Like
Wow.
I felt tornadoes in the Midwest about 4 to 5 days before they came, and it manifested in my emotional body
Hmm.
like a swarm of hornets just swirling, swirling, swirling. And I felt this rage, and I'm not a rageful person.
Yeah.
Um, and I just felt like whirling around and ripping and tearing stuff up. And I had said to my husband, if I say anything or do anything like that, I don't know what's happening to me. Something's
Uh-huh.
happening. I kept describing it as something happening to me. And then
Mhm.
these storms would come and it would dissipate. And it was actually my husband that, the good projector that he is, the good grid worker, he
Mhm.
recognized, he said, Nancy, this always happens with patterns of energy and weather. And then I started paying attention and
Oh,
they really
he
did.
observed that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it probably made his life a lot easier to understand what may be going on.
Like, what is going on with her? Like,
Exactly. Like there's really something. I mean, it took him a couple of years to get used to me, but I mean, he chose me, so here he is.
how long have you been married?
20 years. 20
Oh,
years.
wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, how did how did you get into what you do? Like, where did it start?
So it started very, very young with, the empathy and wanting to take care of people, being able to
Okay.
see inside of them, not realizing that other people didn't see with their feelings, and not realizing that there was anything different about me.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so it really started when my grandmother had had a severe stroke, and I was about 4. Um, this is my earliest remembrance of really like realizing there was something. And my mother didn't isolate her from the family dinner table because of isolating her, but because her physical capacity after the stroke wouldn't allow her to fit at the dining table. So my grandmother was at a card table away from the family in this chair with her food. And I kept looking at her, and I got this sense that she couldn't feed herself, and that even though she was eating something, that she just wasn't able to do this. So I got up from the dinner table and went over and fed my grandmother. And that was when I really got in the habit of being a caretaker. And so I didn't
Mhm.
realize throughout my developmental years that I was
Mhm.
actually taking people's cares away from them. So I like to remind people about how they speak about things, because when you're a caretaker and you become the
Mhm.
taker of people's cares, then you
Yeah.
could be bringing it into your own system, and then it can become problematic, which it did indeed do for me. And so I
Hmm.
was taking everybody's cares away, and I learned how to be a really good codependent, um,
Mhm.
which is part of my path and my journey, was addiction and numbing out these
Mhm.
wonderful gifts because nobody understood them in the environments that I was around. And
Mhm.
so um, when I was 10, my sister passed away and my grandfather passed
I
away.
am
And
so sorry. Mm.
thank you. Yeah. And my stepfather passed away. So they were all in this
Whew.
very short length of time, which, if you think
Mhm.
about the Scorpio energy I bring in, life, death, and rebirth is
Yeah.
an evolving pattern. It's like it's
Mhm.
like this never-ending traffic loop that I'm
Mhm.
not going to get out in this lifetime, because this is what I've come here to transmute and work through. And
Mhm.
so when they passed away, I started having even more experiences with my gifts. And
Mhm.
I started having external experiences with spirit that took me a little while to figure out that I was actually communicating with those who have passed, and,
Mhm.
working with their trauma as well. And so it's kind of like an unfurling, and I think that's how it is for everybody that I've ever met. We have these innate gifts that we all come into
Mhm.
the planet with, and as we develop, we're taught to, go through developmental stages, and
Mhm.
in the physical world, and maybe even in the psychological world. And yeah, I think as we start to develop into those, we start to shut off what is just innate and natural to us to begin with,
Mhm.
our authenticity and our origination energy. And then we
Mhm.
start to become conditioned, and we start to have debris within our auric fields, and we
Yeah.
start to think that's us when it's really a piece of debris that doesn't belong to us. And so what happened with all that for me was my system got bogged down, and I was incredibly sensitive. I wasn't able to function well. I went through my teenage years with undealt with grief through the deaths.
Mhm.
I started using alcohol to numb that out. And I became a very active alcoholic at the age of 10 and went until about the age of 29 using substances to numb out
Mhm.
all of it, because it was very painful and very confusing.
Mhm.
And it made me very different and isolated from my community. And that,
Mhm.
having a stellium in a community sign, it was painful. My communities
Mhm.
were off. They were off.
Yeah.
Hmm. And so
Wow.
my journey has been about my own recovery. I've been in recovery for 24 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it was actually my guides that started talking to me in my alcoholic insanity. There was
Really?
always a guide that was always with me through that process, talking to me,
Mhm.
and guiding me and guiding me and guiding me, and um good, you know a lot of things could have come turned out very differently for
Yeah.
me in my opinion.
Mhm.
And yet there was always this really incredibly strong, I wouldn't say knowing, I wouldn't say it was, cognizant, it wasn't
Yeah.
conscious, but there inside of me there was always this unshakable faith
Mhm.
that something was indeed leading the way, was indeed in charge. And
Mhm.
so when you think about this, really, if you think about charge and
Mhm.
ascension, we're rising our frequency, that charge is a rise. So it was very interesting. Like even in my darkest contrasting moments between
Mhm.
light and dark, there was always a light that was within, that was always
Mhm.
guiding. And fortunately, I feel very blessed that that light didn't ever actually get this, extinguished or
Yeah.
off, because it does for
Mhm.
some people through entity attachment, through any number
Mhm.
of conditionings, right? And so I feel very
Mhm.
blessed that um, that was what my work ended up being. So when I got sober, my work was to become the best me I could become,
Mhm.
start working and developing, my gifts, uh,
Mhm.
learning to communicate and express what was going on with me, if even to speak to myself at times. And that sounds weird when you talk about it, right? Like, but the truth was that it was my voice that was being developed. And because I was developing my
Mhm.
voice, I had to learn to speak. And at first I didn't really speak to a lot of other people about it.
You
So
didn't have anyone, sorry, you didn't have anyone there for you when your sister and your stepdad passed. Just like listening to you, I'm holding back tears. I feel like super heavy on my heart. I am so so sorry,
thank you.
that you had to go through all that. You didn't have any support system?
So yes, and what people don't understand about death, well, in my case, they may now, but in that time, my mother had just lost her daughter. had just lost her husband and her father. And so what people didn't understand was I lost my sister, I lost my stepfather, and I lost my grandfather, but I also lost my mother because we lost her to the grief that comes from the loss. And so it began this terrible feedback loop of dysfunction and pain and stuck trauma. And my brothers had just lost their sister, and they were 7 and 9 years older than me. And so I'm 10, they're 17 and 19, and they're dealing with their own stuff. And my mom had been the caregiver of my grandparents. And so now there's this household that she's now got to take care of me.
Everyone was
Yes,
grieving heavy.
we were just smacked with trauma, right and left. Like trauma just kept pummeling the whole time. And so it really just pulled our family under and apart. And I had already felt very much alone and different than the rest of my family to begin with. And so that just left a real period of just being isolated. Um, I can remember my mom getting in the car to go to the store and pulling in the parking lot and having a panic attack and having to leave. Um, yeah, I had people around me to support me, um, but not really. We were all in survival mode, trying to cope with these repetitive losses. I was
Yeah.
also born into a family of deprivation where we didn't have much. We really didn't have much. We come from poverty. And so my mom had to. My mom could not afford to not survive. She had 3 kids. She had three, um, and alcoholism is a systemic family disease, and it stems generations, and it stems into our ancestry, which is interesting because the more I move through my path, the more I've been guided into ancestral work, story of origin work, clearing out the timelines, entity attachment. Like it's all perfection.
Yeah.
All perfection. That one timeline was very painful. And yet
hmm
that timeline weaves into another timeline. And then I've got a braid that creates a strand.
Yeah.
And so my real passion is to
hmm
sit with somebody's deep pain, no matter what that is.
Yes.
There is nothing better to me than to be able to hold that space for somebody's deep pain
hmm
and to help them find the power within that and to transmute
hmm
it into something that is now their gift and to help them
hmm
find the origination of their story. I love to
hmm
say I'm a storyteller because I love to hear people's stories. I love to listen to
hmm
stories. I love to tell and teach through stories. And I think
hmm
that's oral tradition that I would love to see come back is storytelling, because that's how the women used to come together and go through tough stuff,
hmm
right?
Yeah. Don't mind me. I'm moving towards the bathroom with my son because
You're,
he's
you're
bothering me.
it's all good. Yeah.
Sorry. My sister was in the bathroom, but she needs to go pee. Go on. Okay. Let me flip her back. Um, wow. You have been through it. That is just, I wish I can give you a hug.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's just like, it's a lot, because I know um, we all grieve differently, but it's just like so unfortunate and it's very heavy when you explained everything and it's just like, people deal with things different, with like panic attacks and like, there's depression and then just
Yes. Well, it's interesting how it all weaves together though, because so my sister, when she passed, she was 15, and it started with headaches and having headaches. And her headaches progressed as she was a late bloomer and went into puberty late at 15,
yeah, yeah.
menstruation. These headaches came, and then she had a large stroke, and that is ultimately what,
Hmm. Yeah.
she passed away with. Well, it's interesting because at 14, I started having these migraine headaches.
Huh.
And
Okay.
I struggled with migraines from the age of 14 until about, I'd say it was about 7 years ago now. And they would mimic strokes. So as I would have these migraines, I would get very scared and wonder if I would end up with a stroke. And turns out I did have two small TIAs um, that were diagnosed as migraines. And the reason why I share this is because it's
Yeah.
so interesting how our timelines are so woven so delicately and
Yes.
so intrinsically that we just sometimes can't unpack everything until it is, right? And so I had tried everything with these migraines, and I kind of had resided, I kind of just like settled into myself that
Hmm.
migraines were going to be it for the rest of my life. This was going to happen.
You've
You know,
accepted it.
I just accepted that these were normal. And like, I mean, they were severe. Like there was times when I didn't know who my husband was, and I would know him in my brain, but my communication wouldn't work. I wouldn't know the words. And so it was interesting, right? And then I started being introduced to QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. And I started meeting all these people, and innately I understood that we have many timelines within us. And I innately understood that there are others that we think are others that are us. And so I had this regression, and I was regressed to this young boy who ironically was 14. No, ironically, right? Perfect. He was a 14-year-old boy. He was on a ship. He was impoverished, and he worked for the captain of the ship. And I wanted off the ship. I didn't trust the man, and I wanted off the ship. And he said, yes, I will pay you your wages. I just need you to do one more job for me. And he asked me to turn around and pick up a bunch of wood that was piled. And my death scene was he beat, I'm a little shy to say this because I know your son's right there. Um, oh, okay, perfect. Got headphones in, perfect. I I was beaten by the captain with nails in the wood, and right where my migraines originated was where this man had taken my life, and that was the ending. That was the ending of that particular
That is
path.
some dark Scorpio deep stuff.
It is, and yet I haven't had a migraine since we went deep diving to figure out where the origination point of my pain was. So why I share the deep, heavy depths of this is because sometimes we look at the surface and we look at the shallow and we stay surface level, and there may be wonderful solutions within the surface, and there usually is. And yet I'm also aware that we're complex beings. We're complex beings, and we must dive deep sometimes. And that was the first time that I had found relief. And I haven't had a migraine since, so I had to
Was
look at.
it was it just seeing it? Like were you sorry, were you able to like forgive it? Like um what was there that you needed to what was it just remembering?
It was like, well, it was identification for sure. I mean, 50% of a problem is identifying what the problem is, correct? Like maybe even 70%. I don't know. I haven't ever done a study or read statistics, but for in my personal life, most of my problems are not being able to identify what is occurring. And then once I've identified it, then the solutions can come, right? Like that's the journey.
Yeah.
The journey is
Hmm.
identification. And so like once
Wow.
I remembered that lifetime and I was able to calm the fear of my own lifetime that I live and exist within now.
Yeah.
When I needed to see that I wasn't going to, I was seeing through the lens of my trauma and the terror that I may die the same way my sister died, wake up one day
Hmm.
and have and that was from way back in childhood. And
Yeah.
as soon as I was able to see that there was a causation,
Hmm.
there was a cause for that spot. And once that
Hmm.
was seen and identified, I was able to move through that and to release it. Because sometimes it's not even forgiving. Sometimes it's just karmically your cells remember
Hmm.
and you
Hmm.
must release it, but you have to name
Hmm.
it to tame it, right? You gotta.
Yeah.
And so that began the process for me of understanding how important within the quantum is, and not only releasing the quantum in the particles that become stuck within
Hmm.
us that
Yeah.
we believe is us when it's not. That was like, that was my own personal coursework that I needed to do.
Okay.
And
Do
the
you do that for others? Like, do you put them, what is it called? In a regression hypnosis? Is that what it is or
it
something?
is through hypnosis. It's taken a person into somnambulistic states through the theta state. You
Hmm.
bring them in and induce them into the theta. Right now, I'm just about complete with my certification, but I have been studying with a woman named Laura Whitmore,
Uh-huh.
and she does soul-centered healing hypnosis. And
Hmm.
it's beautiful because what it does is goes through the process. So I am certified in QHHT as well. But
Hmm.
I didn't use it when I learned it. And here's the interesting thing. I didn't use it when I learned it, except for a few interactions with myself and some friends
Hmm.
that really revealed large chunks of energy and information that I needed.
Yeah.
In that process, I was offered a job that's
Hmm.
peer work, working with other individuals through addiction. And I took that job within an outpatient clinic as well as a mobile clinic. And
Hmm.
the years that I was working as a peer, I had these really interesting interactions with hundreds of people. I don't know
Hmm.
how many people sat in my office and said, I swear to God, that was not me that did that.
Oh,
I swear to God, something took over and that wasn't.
yeah.
And so I heard that so many times that it was like, what is going on?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right? Meanwhile, I'm dealing with a lot of people and my energy's kind of getting wonky.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I need a break. I need to just take a vacation.
Yeah.
Right. And then my son got burned 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, I think we are on the anniversary date 3 years ago. No coincidences there. Um, and more trauma. I don't
Mhm.
really want to unpack that story because it's a lot.
No,
And yet
yeah, yeah, it's
there
fine.
was a lot of trauma involved. And
Yes.
so once I started coming out of that piece of it, I knew that the time had come for me to let go of my peer work with people. And what that led to, those
Mhm.
two components
Mhm.
led me into where I'm at now, which is why when
Mhm.
we talk about name and all that, really what is happening is I have been led to realize that we can have entity attachments that are not us. They are not us, they are not of this.
Mhm.
and they attach and they love to feed on people's energy. And so
Hmm.
what happens is in your chakra system and in your own body
Yeah.
system, we're beings of light. Hue men. Hue is
Yes.
right. Um, our light can become dim through trauma, through events,
Yes.
environment, people, places, and things. And our origination energy starts to diminish, which these attachments begin to attach to you. And then your life can go really, really haywire, really
Yeah.
wonky. And it's
Hmm.
starting to dawn on me that these people that had been in the outpatient clinic I was working with actually had entity attachments and was behaving in ways that these
Yeah.
attachments would behave, and it really
Hmm.
wasn't. I mean, it was them in the physical
Hmm.
plane and used, they were
Yeah.
really puppets to, and so it's interesting because I keep saying it just unfurls because one thing is interconnected to another, and that
It's all connected.
yes, and it led me to be in here. And so really I help a person go from one aspect of themselves to another. I
To
help
another.
them identify what is their origination energy, and let's remove all the other blockages. Like let's get them out
Hmm.
of there, right? Because those blockages are leading to bigger problems and of other realms that we do not want to be inviting in, and we live in a free
Hmm.
will universe, and there
Yes.
are many wonderful entities, archangels, guides that
Yes.
love, I call them the unemployed guides because they're just waiting for us to ask for help, you know. And we live in a free will universe and we're all human. We all chose to be humans. So
Hmm.
that's life. This is what we're here to do, is to experience our experiences and grow, grow.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Is it possible for once you remove that entity for that entity to come back?
If yes, if it does not choose to go to the light and be
Yeah.
transmuted by the higher frequencies, it can indeed choose to remain in a service of self position where it's
Hmm.
dark. But what happens with hypnosis and the rebuild,
Hmm.
it's a four-step process because you do
Yeah.
entity removal and you identify the entity, which there's a dominion and a scale of frequency that they function within as well. And
Yeah.
so once one is removed, you offer the light or to go back, like, and so once that removal has occurred, then you
Hmm.
must do a chakra and aura rebuild. You must connect
Hmm.
the person to their energy and their light,
Yeah. Hmm.
rebuild it, seal out the aura, and then you can move into connection with a past life to see what is going on in the here and now that maybe still be playing out from another time. And then from that higher frequency, you can still go into higher frequencies to get to the higher self and communicate.
Hmm.
And so the higher self has the ability to do the removal and add to the rebuild as well. So it's a process of removal as well as rebuild.
Hmm.
Um, once the person is out of a hypnotic state, here's where
Hmm.
the work comes in. Because if
Hmm.
you do the same thing expecting
Hmm.
different results,
Yeah.
that's insanity. So if you are
We live
doing
in a world
the
of insanity.
exactly. And so if you're gonna go when you're in a conscious state, when you're in the beta state and we're in
Yeah.
consciousness, if we're going to stay and do the same emotional patterns, the same mental patterns, and the same physical actions, we're just inviting something different to be able to come in. And
Oh, it's a
that's
loop.
it's a loop. And so it doesn't have to be a loop, though. That's the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's the hope that I want people to know, is
Hmm.
that you don't have to stay in those same patterns. Like the
Hmm.
loops and the patterns, we don't have to stay there. And that's where really dialing in, this is when the work really begins. And I
Mm-hmm.
love it because I love when somebody recognizes that they're a creative being. They are being
Mm-hmm.
a creator. They are being the creator. We are all creators. And when we are being our creator self, our origination, that is where we really encompass our power. And
Yes.
that's really where things get phenomenal, right? Because it's like, I often joke around when I was living in the world of addiction. Every day I'd wake up and be like,
Yeah.
it's another day, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, man, wow, awe. I live in a state of awe. And when that ends, it's time to go back to spirit and go back to a spirit home, right? Like, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not, everything's not Pollyanna and beautiful, and it's
Yeah.
not that's the magnitude and the scope of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It, it we have it's what we do. It's what we do in between and how we create it and who we connect with and who we allow to
Right.
see us. And um it's powerful. It's like it's so powerful, you know.
It sounds powerful, and I think it's so beautiful because it's like you're the guide, you're gonna sit here and assist, but then also it's like there's inner work that you need to do. Because I know there's like a lot of people that like want that instant gratification and they want that quick fix. And like, maybe they'll just go to Nancy and be like, remove this attachment, you know? I
And we
want
can.
this.
And we
It's like,
can.
yes. But it's like, I feel like a lot of people need to understand it's like, yes, you can have a guide, you can have assistance, but like, in order to keep that, in order to stay there, there's inner work that you need to do. You see the patterns and it's just like, don't go there.
Don't go there. Yeah. And it
Hmm.
feels that way too when you're there, that never ending feedback loop. Like I've finally, I mean, this has taken me forever to like,
Yeah.
oh, oops, I'm in a feedback loop. Whoa, wait a minute. All I gotta do is step out of here. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta tell you this story because I so prayed for this man. I don't know where he is. I only met him
Hmm.
once and I didn't even physically meet him. He was just in the same room as me. And
Uh-huh.
I think he had been sober from a substance maybe a couple hours. I don't think he
Okay.
had had a substance in a couple hours. So we're talking
Hmm.
very, very
Yes.
fragile, in a state of
Yeah.
psychological fragility, right?
Hmm.
And he said, I'm so appreciative because this lesson's beautiful. He said, I think I got problems in areas that I don't even know I have areas. And I loved that from the very moment that that was said by him. And I
Hmm.
pray for him because I hope that he has found those areas
Yeah.
that are the areas he belongs in, right? Those are the areas
Hmm.
that he was meant to grow in. And I
Hmm.
often think about our growth that way. Like we have areas we don't know we have areas.
Yeah.
And we're just growing into these areas, but they're all our areas. They're
Hmm.
all ours. And so when we're in a traffic loop, or if I call them the traffic loops, I
Yeah.
feel stuck in a traffic loop,
A
the
never
feedback loop,
ending. Yeah.
that's a sign. That's a guidepost that our guides are in the universe is saying, hey, you're stuck. Hey, you're
Yeah.
stuck as you're passing
Like, what are
by.
you
Hey,
gonna
you're
do?
stuck. You know,
Let's
you're
do
stuck.
something because it's exhausting.
Yes, exactly. And now I just like I've learned, I mean, if I don't laugh at everything, I still have a temper, I'm still human, I still have
Yes.
an emotional spectrum that I must learn to master, right? I'm here
Hmm.
as a human being, learning an emotional spectrum of what it's like to use energy and motion and harness it so that our whole human race and species can move forward.
Yeah.
We're ascending, and it's not like we're just jumping out of our bodies and we're up here in
Hmm.
this space because that does us no good. It does me
Yeah.
no good to know what a past life is if I can't use it in this life or multiple,
Right.
you know,
Right.
like that's just entertainment at that point. But
Yeah.
when you're connecting deeply in a cellular level with
Hmm.
another lifetime that your soul has lived in a different skin,
Hmm.
those fabric, those threads start to build and then you're like, oh, I can bring this skill from that lifetime present. And then you
Right.
become a magician and Merlin and start to be able to really, with intention,
Hmm.
create what you're looking for.
Right. 100%. I find it interesting how people want to like tap into lives that like there's no, what is the word? I forgot the word. They're like it's not relevant to what's happening right now. Or like, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Well, the interesting
Yeah.
thing is I don't think that can actually really even happen because there's relevance in every life you've lived. Um,
Yeah.
it's bringing it when it becomes irrelevant is when we can't bring it from the state of origination into our
Yeah.
consciousness in the moment of now, in this now moment, so
Hmm.
that we can either clear it if it needs to be cleared, because not everything
Yes.
needs to be cleared. Some things just need to
Yeah.
be recognized and identified
Hmm.
so that you can identify that this is. So I'll share a quick story, super quick. I met a woman. I was guided to go to a place that teaches yoga, and at the time I was
Hmm.
338 or 328 pounds. The
Okay.
last thing I wanted to hear from spirit was them telling me to go to a yoga farm, right?
Yeah.
Did not, did not. Like, I had so much dysmorphic relationship with my body at that point in time. I was just coming out of addiction, and food addiction was one of them. And so it's like, why would you want me to go to this place 45 minutes away that I'm not going to stand on my head and put my legs up and yell, that was my concept of it at the time. And so I go and I meet this woman, and the connection was instant, instant. And I thought that I was there because of her. And so I went back a second time, and it was a meditation circle, and it was a woman's circle. And this woman came in and sat down next to me while we were in meditation. And she got up and left before I ever even seen who she was. And after that, I decided that, well, I didn't decide, it was, I was inspired to go to help pick up the dishes and take care of everything. And I met the woman that was sitting next to me, and she's actually from a past life. And that was the first time that I ever cognitively had a visual flash of being in another lifetime, not under hypnosis, like just full on remembrance, and like standing up and
Wow.
going, oh. And she smiled. She said, oh. And like, we both to this day, like, it was so incredible because like we were just minding our business going out to lunch, and I dropped a quarter, and the quarter fell next to her feet, and I went to bend over and pick it up, and it was her feet. I remembered her feet. It was the weirdest thing because
It's so
in that lifetime
crazy.
I was a foot cleaner. I have always taken on lifetimes that are of service, but
Hmm.
are powerful where, like in that particular lifetime, I was privy to hearing the Mongolian invasion plans because I was cleaning their feet. And she was a monk. She was a Himalayan monk. And the only thing lower than a Himalayan or a Mongolian foot cleaner was a Himalayan monk, and we were able to merge. Well, the interesting thing was that she herself had gone back there in this lifetime and had pictures of parts of the caves, and had been seeking
Wow.
why she always wanted to go there, why she was drawn,
Ha.
why. So like, the best thing I want to share from that story is like, if you are feeling drawn and you have some sort of something within your body that is magnetizing you someplace, even if you don't understand where or why,
Hmm.
it's it's often good to tap into that because there's lots of lessons or memories. It's sometimes not even
Yeah.
lessons, it's just remembering what you already know. And so
Yeah.
like, that really was the catalyst, one of the catalysts of the many that I've
Hmm.
experienced, to really, really help people get to their creator point. Like, we're
Yeah.
magnificent, powerful beings.
Mm-hmm.
Creativity is a massive power.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's what, 330 billion, 300 billion, I'd have to look. I'm not a statistic analyst. I never am. I guesstimate. But there is a lot of people on the planet right now, right?
Way too much, yes.
A lot of people on the planet, a lot of beings. I'll say there's a lot of beings on
Yes.
the planet. If every one being, if I
Mm-hmm.
just did my work and you just did your work, and that person just like that, it could change. Just like,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
It is.
That is power right there in the true sense of creative force that power's meant to be.
I hope to be here when the time comes because I always like sit here and think like I'm wondering if I'm gonna be part of the reality where like there's more people that I guess you can say like awaken, less assholes in this world.
The veil
You know?
has definitely, yeah. Well, the veil has thinned so much that the idea of
Yes.
separation is not any longer, And to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you, I'm gonna challenge you, my friend. And this is my challenge, it's everybody's challenge.
Yes.
What lens is within you that you see people through that lens with?
I need to stop judging. Okay, I'm gonna call myself out. All right.
I say
It's
that
fun.
with the most love. I say that
No,
with the
yes,
most
one
love.
100%. Mm-hmm.
Because those lenses, I mean, my lens, I
Yep.
mean, I won't throw you under the bus without joining you, honestly, because like I just had an experience for as much as I know and as much
Mm-hmm.
as I have experienced, I just had a very human experience yesterday with one of my adult children. And you
Yeah.
would have thought that I didn't know a darn thing about love or beauty or kindness or
Mm-hmm.
take the lens out. Something triggered within me, and like this is something that we're working on timelines to remove between the two of us. And
Mm-hmm.
everything she was showing me was me. And it's easy to say, oh, I want to remove this lens, like say judgment, I want to take
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
right. Here was my experience yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I have a beautiful daughter. She's trying to love me, and there was
Yeah.
some part of me that felt unlovable yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And when she said something to me, it felt unlovable. And it
Mm-hmm.
triggered out some of the childhood stuff that we talked about,
Yes.
the unlovable, and it brought it up to be able to clear it. But you can't clear it till you feel it or see it. Like, there's no bypassing. And I know that there's methods out there that you can. I know
Yeah.
this. Yet for those of us who have come here for the human experience to feel what it's
Mm-hmm.
like to have an emotional domain, because our emotional body's just coming online, what we can do with it.
Yeah.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
coming online. Not the rage and all the things that, but the real powerful emotional body that we can harness is coming online the more we pull that veil away.
Mm-hmm.
Energy and motion, we're here to harness that. And so that was just a pocket of energy that was still in me that felt unlovable.
Mm-hmm. That's deep. Thank you for like your vulnerability. I really like the connection, Nancy.
This is
What,
how we get
what
by,
was our
right?
past lives? What was our past lives together?
This is how we get by, right? Like we must multiply the joys and divide the sorrows together. We must.
Yes. And it's so difficult to what is it that you said? Multiply the joy,
Multiply
right?
the joy and
Um,
divide the sorrow. Yeah.
when like, whoa, sorry. In like my case, like as a child, it's like I didn't necessarily like have that, and it's just so crazy and it's just so interesting because like, you know, um random, but it's like it amazes me how like us as mothers, what I lacked as a child comes easy as a mother, right?
Mother.
And I don't sit here and it's like, I'm not gonna like sit here and like pout and be like, well, I didn't get this as a kid, so I'm not gonna give it to you. But it's just so amazing and beautiful how and I'm sure like this can play out in other like not only as mothers, but whatever other role that you play in your life where, where you laugh, oh, it is like possible to get that, create that, pull it out of wherever from yourself and then like give it, you
Yes,
know?
yes, yes.
It's
And
beautiful.
yeah, like uh, most of the peer work that I did for all the years that I did peer work,
Hmm.
people would say, how do you work with such broken people? How do you
Yeah.
work with people that are, in a gamut of situations?
Yeah.
And the truth was that every one of those people healed me in some way, shape, or form. Because
Yeah.
if I could see that they had pain, then I had already experienced that pain because I wouldn't recognize it if I didn't have it.
Yeah.
And and here's the thing with exploring the quantum field.
Hmm.
I may not have that experience that I had in childhood this time
Yeah.
around, but I bet you we could go to another timeline and find it somewheres.
Hmm. It's pretty interesting. When I was like going through my spiritual awakening stuff and I was tapping into stuff that I shouldn't have tapped into, it's pretty amazing how like at least like for me, where just some gruesome shit. Just like, you're like, oh, what happened in this life? And then like, in my situation, my guides were like, before I started getting into all my stuff and understanding, I can say that like the work that we do is kind of similar, not exact, but similar. And a lot of the times when I was developing my gifts and stuff, Spirit was like, Cynthia, like, are you ready? Because, you know, best way I could describe it is just like, like you being holding space for those in so much pain and assisting them, showing them that there is light within them,
Hmm.
right? And tapping into the past lives for me, I was like, yeah, I'm ready. My guides are like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, like just show it to me, because I'm so impatient. And then boom, there's the lives that were just, I was just like, what? And they're like, I told you you weren't ready.
Exactly. And I mean, some of the developmental stages that humanity as a whole has moved through and what was totally acceptable in that timeline. And we think about it now, I'm like, wow, I got a pretty soft life, really.
Right?
I have a
Like,
pretty I have a home, I have a functioning latrine, I
right?
have water, I have clothing. Um, I've got pain, but it is nothing like the
Yes.
physical pain of that
Nothing compared
lifetime.
to what that,
I don't know if you've ever been on
yeah.
a real wheel that pulls your body in different directions, but that feedback loop I'm on now, I'll take that. Thank you. Like, because that other one, that didn't seem like it's, I don't know. I'm not a princess in this lifetime, but I certainly feel like one when I think about other times that I've been in.
That's the best thing. I'm sorry, Sebastian's being his little reflector self. Are you feeling my pain, Beth? He's feeling my pain, Nancy.
He comes around when we talk, I've noticed. Because
Yes,
time
yes.
we chatted
Hmm.
the last time we when we first met and was chatting, he came up and
Yes.
just kind of
What,
really
baby? He's going through life right now. What drives you to continue assisting and like holding that space? And like, I just want to say like a huge virtual hug and a huge thank you because it not a lot of people listen. Not a lot of people listen, like how, you doing your work, and not a lot of people know how to hold space and stuff. And you are just like, you're so wise, Nancy. You are so amazing. And the work that you do, I feel like everyone just needs like a little bit of Nancy, you know?
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's interesting because, you're saying that to me, and part of my part of my recovery is remaining humble and being willing to receive. Um,
100%.
and it's often been it's often been for me to learn self-love. That's part of my
Yes.
path, like love and beauty. And like, I wanted to say thank you because I've been working really diligently on releasing to allow, to release the
Yes.
dependencies, to release what I thought was me that is no longer me. And, meeting myself with love. Like yesterday when my daughter and I had that
Yes.
space, there was a part of me that just didn't believe it was lovable. And she was just trying to love me,
Yeah.
she's just trying to love me. And so receiving is definitely a part of my journey. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that's everybody's journey. I think we're all trying to learn how to receive in the best ways we can, right? Um,
Yeah. And accept whatever is being given. I know
yeah,
I have a huge, huge where it's like, I don't deserve it. I don't like words of affirmation. So it's like whenever someone's like, oh, like, you help me, I'm just looking at them like, what do you do? What do you do when someone compliments you?
yeah. Well, part of my recovery was learning to just say thank you, and to receive it as the most beautiful gift of
Yeah,
reflection. They're telling me that my life has meaning, the pain that I've walked through has meaning.
that's deep.
And they're giving me a gift. They're affirming that every breath I have experienced on this earth plane has been received.
Mm,
It's
it's
leaves me
mind blowing.
speechless.
It's so deep because just, being able to look at someone that was in your shoes when you were, in addiction, you
Yeah,
know, and then just
yeah,
telling them what you just said,
yeah. I just,
right?
we rarely talked about addiction when somebody would come in. I'd ask them what their hopes are. What's your dreams? Like, who are you? When did you give this all up? What happened? Like, everybody has a story, and that's their power. The narrative is the power.
They matter too.
Everyone matters, every body matters. And that's the thing. Where's the pain? Which body? Is it in the physical? Is it in the mental body? Is it in the emotional body?
It's
Is it in the spiritual
all of
body?
it. It's all
Sometimes.
of
And me, if I was a red hot minute mess, yeah, it was in all of it for me, right? Like I come bouncing in like a cannonball into this life. Like I'm gonna find
it.
the most
Yeah.
painful points I can find, and I'm gonna jump in them like a cannonball. And then I'm
A
gonna
lot
like,
of us operate from that pain, you know?
yeah,
A lot of us project that pain. And it's like, it's subconsciously, I think it's like, well, this is all I know. So this is what I'm going to give you. And just deprogramming that. And like
yeah,
what you do, removing that entity um,
from your being,
from,
from who you are.
yeah,
Yeah. I do want to touch on that
yeah,
because we were talking a little bit about what, can they come back and things like that, right?
yes, mm-hmm,
So the beauty of this, and I mean, there's a part of me, my ego part that's like,
yeah,
yeah, I have learned a lot through my path, right? And then there's the humble piece of me that's like, I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. I've got like a sliver's worth, right? And that's the truth. And I think we're all experiencing the guru and the less than, and finding balance in all of that part of it, right? Somewheres in your world. So for me, the process of rebuilding somebody's energetic field, it's their own process, but we all need support, right? We all need loving support. And human design was that loving support that showed up in my path when I was ready for it. I had had a lot of ego deaths and a lot of stripping down and a lot of pain. And when they say human design picks you, they say it chooses you. And it's, in my case, it certainly did. I heard it from several people on 12 hours, from these people seemingly do not connect in any way in their lifestyle or ways. And I just heard it and heard it and was like, what is that? Right. Well, come to find out, I had been storing bits and pieces of human design ever since it had been released. And I had a little piece here from YouTube and a little piece there from some article I had read. And after I realized that human design was calling me, and I opened up my phone in different places of storage, like, oh my goodness, this has been trying to get my attention for, I don't know, years. I'm stubborn. Sometimes I'm deaf, just as deaf can be. Sometimes I am deaf and I need that sign, like literally to step
Yeah.
directly in front of me and like be breathing
You're
on
a
my toes.
manifesting generator?
I'm a generator. I'm an
A
emotional generator.
generator. Okay, a
I
generator.
am, with a lot of conditioning factors that was
Mm-hmm.
very present, right? And so when human design came into my world, and the first sentence that I ever read about it was, it's known as the science of differentiation. That word differentiation lit up my sacral center, and I had pure fire. Like I was like, I'm on fire. What do I do with this? Right. And I don't think I'd felt that level of being turned on in my body, like something had pushed a power button and all systems were like go, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I share this is for people to, whoever hears this, whenever they hear this,
Mm-hmm.
I just want you to take a minute and allow yourself to really dial into your body wisdom, because so much goes on that we dial out of our body wisdom. He's looking at me like, lady. um and to really dial into your system, right? Because your body knows what it knows, when it needs to know it, when it needs to know it, and how it needs to know it. And it has an agreement with your soul to carry it through this plane in this time and trajectory and dimension and time, and to like really just take 1 second of your day and touch your knee and tell it thank you. Touch your shoulder and tell it thank you. And just really get into the embodiment of what it knows. He says, I know how to do this. Hi, buddy. And
Actually,
yeah,
say hello. You said
hi.
no.
I know. He's curious about me, but she brings intense feelings in my body, and I'm not used to that, Mom.
It's the Scorpio. So
Yeah. And
go
I'm
into
being
the
a
bathroom.
reflector, right?
Go on. He's gonna use the bathroom. This is literally my every day. Okay. I'm excited for them to go back to school.
I know. Moms need breaks. They really do.
Oh, we need breaks. Mm. Um, I was gonna ask. So you went through it, okay? You are a warrior. You really are. You are here to help people. You're a healer. As a child, did you have any like dreams or what did you want to be when you grew up? Little Nancy, what's going on?
I wanted to be a unicorn.
Really? You know what? I
I
love
came
that.
into this earth plane absolutely knowing, without, nobody could convince me anything different, because I was seeing them with my own eyes. I absolutely
Yeah.
came in, like the fairy realm absolutely saved me in my childhood. When I was out of my house, like that's what saved me. I was out in nature, and I would practice being, I would lay in the plants and wonder what it felt like to be green. And I would lay in, I've believe I have always just wanted to be magic. I have always just wanted to be magic. That was my dreams. I wanted to be a unicorn. I wanted to be the mythical creature that nobody believed or could see, but it was so real if you would just but look. And that's the message. Like, you are so magical if you would but just look.
And that's what you are.
I wanted to be the unicorn.
And how does it feel achieving what you wanted to be? Sorry.
I'll let you
How
know
does
when
it
I get
feel
there, because I
knowing
think
that?
I think I'll
I
let you know
think
when I
you're
get
there
there.
already, girl. Oh my
Uh,
gosh, sorry.
It's all right. It's all good. I really honestly just think that honestly what happened after the unicorn was I wanted to be a nurse like there was nobody's business. I wanted to help people and I wanted to be a nurse. And it's interesting because my path was never meant to be traditional medicine and go into nursing. And because I got pneumonia when I was in 11th grade and I was just about to test out of my high school vocational school and go into an adult level LPN course. And I got
Mm-hmm.
pneumonia and I was not allowed to do the course because I missed the attendance level because I was admitted in the hospital with pneumonia several times. And
Was
so
that a
think about,
sign?
oh, well, think about pneumonia. It opens up your lungs. You can't breathe. Like
That's
you're
not
like,
good.
but it was the environment. I was breathing in all this stuff that
Stop.
was my life, and like I'm smoking cigarettes, probably because I was smoking a pack of cigarettes by the time I was in 11th grade too. I mean, addiction hit hard and
Mm-hmm.
it hit hard fast.
Yeah.
I wanted to numb out. And the part that I didn't mention, for many years it clinically would have been considered clinically suicidal ideation.
Oh.
Yeah, and didn't necessarily not I didn't necessarily want that. What I didn't want was what I was experiencing. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to fix it.
Wow.
So I think we all learn a
You.
level of powerlessness, right? We learn powerlessness and that it's in the
That's
survival.
what we're taught.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So I mean, I share that because if anybody hears this that is in a state of absolute apathy or in a state of emotional turmoil and just feels like there may be nothing else, like surrender isn't falling into like some dark abyss that you just tumble into. Like surrender is falling into the hands of something that knows better than you. And when
It
you're ready,
feels like you're going into what you just said,
this
the
abyss.
this dark, and it's scary because it's like I feel like that's the difficult thing in like life. It's balancing reality with spirituality, with faith, you
With
know?
the mythic, with the mythical.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, nobody, if you're human, you're not meant to live all mythical. And if if you still remember your magical essence from whichever origination point you come from, it's not forgetting that while you're in the human as well. So it's that huge that it's that integration of both, right? It's the knowledge and wisdom coming from above and the earth energy and it's the weaving. It's the weaving of energy.
What do you think is the most difficult thing that you do in your work?
Hmm. Are you ready for this? The darn technology. I hate it.
Really?
I
Why?
I am manifesting a virtual assistant. I am manifesting a virtual assistant. I have got the funniest story to tell you about why I just said that. I zot things out, things that are easy systems, like look at you, Kish.
Mm-hmm.
Systems that are easy to
Mm-hmm.
I zot them out. My husband used to pick on me and call me a picnic, problem in chair, not in computer, right?
Oh man.
Until he sat one day and was like, you're doing the exact same thing I am. How come this computer isn't working? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm gonna throw it out the window because
Oh my
like I'm
God.
wasting so much time on all of this and it's ridiculous to me, right? Well,
Hmm.
it's interesting because I am gonna put a shameless plug in. I met the most fantastic astrologer
Uh-huh.
recently, and she's doing what is called a money chart for me. I had
Ooh,
never heard of
okay. I
it
love
before. I
that.
didn't know what it was. I was like, I've never had that done before. So let's play and dabble there, right?
Yeah.
So today she sends me this text, matter of fact, a little bit right before we got on, and said to me, do you have a problem with your nervous system? And I'm like, well, yes, in ways. I mean, my nervous system, I do in the sense of like I have deep grief that I'm working through right now.
Yeah,
I've
that you're
had
still going
another
through.
series of deep deaths and tragedies that happened
Hmm.
in the last 9 months, and I'm working through them. So I have deep grief, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, does grief count as messing with your nervous system? And she said, yeah, but you have this thing going on in your Mercury, which is the planet of communication and electric
Yeah.
and fast, right?
Hmm.
And she said, it's weird. There's something there. And I didn't think about this until after we were starting to talk.
Yeah.
It's all my electrical problems I'm having. It's my nervous system. Once I manage to like see
Yeah.
whatever is happening with my Mercury,
Yeah.
I'll be able to maybe, unless it's something I chose to experience all the way through life,
Yeah.
like that made
Breakthrough.
so much sense to me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's why I blow up computers. There's something wrong with my Mercury.
Do you offer in person?
I do. I do. I will do readings and I will do energy work in person. I prefer to do human design online. I don't like for some reason I don't like doing human design in person because then the empathic energy starts kind of like making me feel wonky and
Mm,
I don't feel like I can do justice to somebody's their chart, their energy,
yeah.
and talking about them because then it starts coming in. So I do like to do human design. In QHHT, I'm not really practicing, but the soul-centered healing hypnosis is what I'll
Yeah.
be practicing. So I have not done that in real life time yet, but I've done a lot of remote and I kind of like doing the entity removal remote, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to come to you for that because your girl probably has a bunch of entities.
Where we all have something attached in some way, shape, or form.
No, yeah.
The level, I mean,
100%.
yeah, the level of it ranges in scale and power of what it is and how it's affecting us and where it's affecting us. Um,
Yeah. It's
but
so crazy because you know how you had said something about what we feel called to, there's something there. Listen, so crazy, okay? I know like my ancestral line that there is like just like dirt poverty. And I've always felt this weird like home comforting connection to um like just how do I explain it? Poverty. Like it's like how like houses made of mud and like little huts and like having like absolutely nothing,
yeah,
right? And then just like going out and I don't know, like I don't know where it would be, but like, there's a pond in front of your house and you like spending all day looking for a fish. Whoa.
yes.
My favorite, the like best way I can like describe the feeling, my favorite show is Naked and Afraid. I don't know if you've
I've
heard of
watched
it.
it a couple of
I
times. Yeah.
I love Naked and Afraid, and it's just so like interesting and really nice to have like those survival skills. And it's interesting to see how people react in like the wild, where like you have no clothes. What are you gonna do? Like are you crafty? And just spending your whole day like searching for food, like you're in survival. So it's so weird how I like it's the best thing that I can just it's like this comfort. This I have absolutely nothing. I don't know. It's
It
weird,
feels
girl, but
it's interesting because it feels to me
yes.
as you're talking about that,
Hey,
it feels to me like the question I wanted to ask
close
you is
again.
it really survival or is it living to its fullest? Because I feel like there's this piece of you that
Mm-hmm.
has done that and remembers it and knows it.
Right? And it's so weird because it's like I'm breaking generational curses and I want to thrive and not be in that like comfort. I'm like stepping into where I don't feel comfortable, you know? But it's so weird because as I'm like going and as I'm like, removing these money blocks, there's just like this um it's like this puppy dog with the puppy dog
Yes.
and it's just like and that puppy dog is poverty.
Yes.
It's that feeling.
Yes. It is. It is. And we have our thermostat set, it's called
Yeah.
our oh, I could have just said it until I tried to say it. The articulate activation system, the reticular activation
Yes.
system.
Yes.
Gosh, I couldn't get that to come out of my mouth for anything. It's our thermostat that we're set at, right? And it keeps wanting us to do that. But that's what the importance of doing some of this work is, because that thermometer may be set here, but if you go in this lifetime and see what created its rigidity and resistance to move,
Right.
then you're bringing in a different energy, right? And then you can harness that and decide whether you want to move it or not. And who knows, I had this experience and it kind of blew my mind away, because I had this experience in this lifetime. It's been about
Mm-hmm.
um, lack and scarcity. And
Yeah.
I had a guide
Mm-hmm.
step forward and talk to me and told me, you know what, that's exactly why you live the way you do, is because it's scarcity. You live in scarcity. Like, get out of the circle. Like, if you feel that, like, get out of the city. And I'm like,
Right? It's not that easy,
oh
okay?
my gosh, it's a state of being. No, like, if I had known that a long time ago, I'd have done that, right? And it's so much about what's inside of you. It's nothing to do with that dollar bill. It's nothing to do
Right.
with, you know what I mean? When I remember a guide asking me, can you lavish love upon yourself? And I'm like, what the heck does that have to do with a dollar
Does
bill?
that?
Who does that? Like,
Right?
I'm not going to rub a dollar bill all over me. What do you mean? I didn't know what lavish meant.
Mm-hmm.
Lavish meant to treat yourself with love, to give
Yes.
to yourself. Can you do this? That might require some skill learning. Maybe.
Right? Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the truth. And so when I got into entity removal, one of my clearings that somebody was doing on for me,
Mm-hmm.
I had a great grandmother attached to me.
Mm.
Everybody that remembered her told me, oh, she was vicious. She was vicious. You didn't want her to put her gaze on you because you knew something. And do you know when that came up and she was attached to my
Mm-hmm.
throat? She was attached to my
Oh my
throat,
God.
my chest area, my
That is
throat.
strong.
Well, let me tell you what she said. She said the best Cold War is poverty.
That's trauma.
The best Cold War is
Yeah.
poverty. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to keep power over somebody, you keep them in poverty. I was like, when I heard that coming out through that regression and the recording,
Yeah.
and I was hearing I was like, oh, she was Russian, and she was from the late 1800s and the early 1900s.
Okay.
So if you think about like what this woman went through, she probably never remembered her light. I was
Yeah.
clicking on an
Mm-hmm.
ancestral line. You kept your mouth
Yeah.
shut.
That is Nancy, this is powerful.
It is, right?
Oh my God.
It is. And if you're feeling this within you, it's because there's something within you that wants you to see you. There are no thems. There's only
We're
us.
gonna be
Because, oh yeah,
honing in to our true authentic self.
yes. And our origination vibration. Yes. And that's why human design is so important to me, because that's my
I
blueprint. That's
love
my
human design.
energetic blueprint that I get to experience over and over again, to experience in its lowest vibration as well as its highest vibration. And
Mm-hmm.
when it's all just an experiment, it gives us permission to play. And like, even the things that I was sharing with you that were painful are an
Yeah.
expression of my human design. And now
Yes.
I'm not a graph. I'm not some body graph. And this is, I
Yeah.
have free will. I can change all that. But it really held me accountable to this energy dynamic that I have experienced my whole life as me. For the first time in my entire life, I felt fully valued, fully heard, fully seen. And it was through this that I desired to get to know myself in such a deep way that brought me
Mm.
to my origination energy. And then I remembered who I am, like, oh my goodness,
Yeah, it clicked.
oh my goodness. You know, I've always had a lot of existence fear. I've
Hmm.
always had a lot of fear, like,
Wow.
about existence, right? And so I always thought in my mind, well, that would make sense. I had a lot of death. And so
Mm.
how am I
In the
gonna,
past and in the present.
all the way through? Like, it's a permeating thread through my life.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
I always
Ugh.
thought that, right?
Yeah.
Going to therapy, and I've talked to people about it and
Yeah.
all this stuff, right? I open up my human design chart and I have an open spleen center, and the spleen is all about existence. It's all about
Mm.
awareness, and it's an awareness center, and it's all about existence. And so you get these pulses that, like, and they all have different, the gates within the spleen all have different things, right? Well, when you look at my chart, I can't remember how many I have, I off the top of my head, but I have like 4 or 5 of these gates highlighted in my open.
Wow.
And every one of those fears are exactly all of the fears I have experienced my whole entire life. And as soon as I realize that I am here to take that in and feel humanity's fears that way, and that that's something I'm working with, and I can talk about that, and then I've got, relying on faith over here, and then I'm going to have, but I was like, oh, this makes it easier. Like this, I'm all about the ease, let's do this way, because that's been pretty hard that way. Like,
When you do your entity removal, do you bring in human design into it, or are those two separate services that you have?
they are two separate services
Hmm. Okay.
at the moment.
Hmm.
There's the tricky part. Here we go back to that computer and the
Yeah,
technology,
yeah, yeah.
that
Mhm.
harder part,
The struggle.
the struggle for me. I don't know what's going to show up until the person shows up with me, because
Yes.
where we're at and how we're going to do that may be different for
Hmm.
each person. So for me, I'm in the process of taking all of these modalities that I have worked with that are my tools, right? They're my tools. And I am scrunching my tools together to create what I know will work. And then we can pick a smorgasbord.
Okay, talk about your transition. You were talking about like you're transitioning, like your business,
Yeah,
and I'm so excited for you.
thank you so much. So I am transitioning. I have always gone by love and light wellness, and
Yes.
always, for 20 years. And
Wow.
recently, it's transformed and transmuted itself into more
Hmm.
of a message that I am kind of meant to work with people to help them realize. Um,
Hmm.
although I'm a healer, I do help you heal. I'm more
Yes.
about wellness. And so what my guides have
Okay.
been telling me a lot lately is that love and life is wellness.
Hmm.
It is the wellness that we're seeking. We're all
Yes.
seeking to return out of either fear or love. It's all fear or it's love. And that love is wellness. And so what they're showing me is the process of identity, and the layers of our identities that we create, and they become our conditioned self. And then we are operating from these conditionings and these
Yeah.
conditioned identities and selves. And our origination energy gets packed down in there.
Yes.
And so what they're asking me to do is, I don't even like talking about branding, to be honest with you. That's my dilemma. That's my biggest dilemma in life. Like,
Yeah.
could somebody come and do all that? Because I just don't really.
You're like, no, no, not my
That's not
expertise.
mine. I'm a firm believer that if God created you afoot, stay afoot. And if God created you as part of the brain to do technological stuff, then be part of the brain
Right?
and like
You need to
stay in
hire
there,
someone to
like
do stuff
do,
like
you know what
that.
I mean? Yes. So if my gift is working directly with people, and somebody else's gift is working with me to create the technological field that I want to be within, then great, somebody bring it on, because ugh. um yeah, so my website is just nanfairchild.com. It's not, it's on under construction. You will come up to a business
Okay.
card that has my information on how to get in touch with me. I do prefer to be contacted via text or via email. It's
Okay.
much easier. A lot of people
Hmm.
find me on Facebook and contact me on Messenger and like, hey, how do we connect? So because I'm a connector and I like to connect,
Yes.
usually I'll personally respond to you. Sometimes the waiting list is long, sometimes it's not.
Yes.
Um, I would love to tell you that at 8:05 on Monday, I check my emails, but I don't. Um, just saying,
She's a busy woman, guys.
I'm real. Well, I am very real. I don't want somebody to think that, I always
You're
get
gonna
back to
respond quick.
people. I
Yeah.
always get back to people, and it's always going to be at this moment in time me until I can't no more me. And it's getting busy and full. But my email is inspired, inspired at nanfairchild.com. My number is 607-259-9169. You can contact me via text. I do not pick up phone calls. That is a text number. So
Period.
I won't pick up the phone, so don't expect, but I may pick up my phone and call you back. Um, I may, you never know. It just depends upon what spirit really tells me in the case,
Okay.
I prefer being a human and having
Yes.
that contact ability. Because I often
Okay. So contact Nancy through text, and I'll put everything in like the show notes and
yeah.
stuff. When do you see your website coming back up, or are you just doing everything intuition based? Like,
Mixture. So
yeah.
I have a friend who is a marketing professional, and
Ooh, okay.
and she has graciously, we have been doing exchange. I've been doing some work with her, and I think she got the harder job. um, she's like, well, could you take that image and like bring it down a little bit? And like, I'm like, no. No, not yet, but maybe tomorrow. So I think she's got the tougher job out of the two of us, but I'm learning. I've become so incredibly advanced for what my technology used to be.
Yeah,
Now I
yeah,
find it a little bit more funner, and I'm enjoying it. I do love the speed of the social media platforms. That
right.
I like, but like if it requires like a learning scale, I'm like,
Yeah, it's a lot, because I feel like it's just like, social media is like really quick and it's always changing. I can't keep up with it. Like,
it is
and then like with,
fast.
with technology too, like It's like with the updates and the upgrades and then this version, and it's just, I don't know. It gives
I'm
me a headache too. You're not alone.
yeah. So my husband and I are I'm going to be doing something fun. I would love to give a timeline, but I don't necessarily have it. I'm being led by spirit,
Hmm.
just allowing it to emerge as it does. But my spirit guides have come forth and Mike's the same time in different rooms. We are going to be converting into RV living, and so I'm really thinking
She's
about doing
traveling.
a road show. I'm really thinking about showing up and doing a road show and really playing with that. So it's brand new. So I feel a little vulnerable sharing that because I don't have answers to how, what, why, when, where.
Yeah,
I don't, but I know it's
it'll just
occurring.
happen.
Yep, I know it that, and the spirit's heating me up as we talk about it. So I know
Yeah,
it's
it's
coming.
gonna happen. I'm
So
super. We're gonna have to keep in touch
I
so
was
that
gonna say,
you
you
can
never
let me
know. I
know.
just may show up and be like, hey,
Girl,
here I
where are you at? Where are you touring? I want to
am.
see you.
Yeah, I
Oh my
think
God.
it's yeah, I think it's meant to be kind of like really grassrooty, like a
I love that.
grassroot kind of thing where, our feet are on the ground. It's time that we start meeting up and meeting
I
each
love that grounding, just, grounding and just like connecting with people and like vibing. It's so beautiful. So two more questions for you, and then I'm
other.
going to be doing quad pulls
Yep,
for us.
beautiful.
Um, Tell me your favorite thing about what you do.
I love seeing somebody's eyes or hear it in their voice or sense it in their energy when they
Hmm.
connect to the real self of them, maybe for the first time. When
Okay.
they really, really start to realize in their
Hmm.
innermost innate self that they're
Hmm.
not what they've been buying into, what they believe about themselves.
Look, and with that, he gave me a kiss. Okay. So,
Yeah.
like, remembering yourself, loving yourself. You're
Yes.
seeking for something I like to say, like, whatever it is you're seeking outside of you, you have already within you.
And exactly. And when that just goes like a burning ember down and in their innermost self and in the core of themselves, they feel that core of
Deep.
themselves and that empowerment lights them up. I know that my connection with them is complete. Like
Oh my goodness.
I
That is so
know that I
beautiful.
have, yep, I know that everything that I have ever worked towards felt is complete. And I can't get enough of it to see people remembering themselves.
Hmm. That's beautiful.
Mm.
I love that. Do you have any advice for anyone wanting to do what you do, but they're just struggling, you know?
Well, I would say remove the lens of trying to do what I do and start dialing into what do you do. Early on in recovery, I thank God for my first sponsor because the first thing she taught me is comparison is despair. So if you compare, you despair. So remove the comparison, get rid of all the things, fall in love with the science of differentiation, what makes you you. Stop
Hmm.
asking outside of yourself for affirmation because you
It's
might be the
already
one
there.
that people are waiting for to show up so that you can affirm to them.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of things that I could have saved myself some pain with, but it was part of my lesson. I mean, I'm not going to woulda, shoulda, coulda on me.
No, yeah, yeah.
I
Hmm.
now, in hindsight, see that I was who I was waiting for to show up.
Hmm.
And I got to tell you
That's
something.
some like deep stuff, Nancy. God, you just hitting it every time you
I
speak.
think it's all of us. I think we all like. I think we all, if we can learn to be vulnerable with one another, I think we're all here. We're all
Hmm.
waiting for ourselves to show up. I'm
Hmm.
going to put a shameless plug in, and you're going to know my age by this, okay? I love Gene Simmons. He wrote this book. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Me Inc. Me dot or me comma Inc. I gotta go buy
Okay.
it. I've given the last 3 copies away, but
Mm-hmm.
I love this book. That man
Mm-hmm.
has more sage wisdom in it
Uh-huh.
than I could possibly sit here and give you. And the best thing that I ever heard him say, and this was affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of funny, spirit playing with me,
Yeah.
is find out what you do and then do it, right? You're who you're waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was given that book, Me Inc. And Gene Simmons is in it saying, you know, when I was a member of Kiss, the band Kiss, the 4 of us would go to these concerts looking for this certain type of concert and we could never find it. Well, the music was us that we were looking for.
Damn.
I'll leave it with that. I'll leave it with that.
Wow. That is such powerful stuff. I'm telling you, girl, I like talking to you. Too bad we
Lots
don't
of
live nearby.
well, you know, we are very close in the sense of nowadays, but just hey, I'm on Zoom, okay.
Right? And I'm
You
excited. Hopefully I'm
know, not
in
as
the
good as
in
the
the
physical.
in the world where um we just like teleport and we just envision and then we're there. No more planes.
No more. Yep.
That'd be so awesome. I'm gonna get
By
into the
location.
card pulls.
Nice.
Sebastian, stop. I have this little it's like my self-care deck. Why are you crying? Why are you crying? It's rough being four. It's rough being four. What happened? I'm almost done.
Maybe he wants to pull
Can
a
I
card
finish?
for us, share
Okay,
his
I'll let
wisdom.
him. Okay, Bashi, get up. You want to help? Come on, get up. Pull a card for Mama. Come on, Pisces. Come on. Let's shuffle. Bashi, can you knock on it? Can you knock on it? Knock on it. Go like this. Cleanse it. Give me Sebastian's energy.
Yep.
Okay, all right, ready? Come here. Come on. Bashi, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and pick 3 cards. Ooh, the intention is Nancy. That was quick.
I'm
You pick
telling you,
more than
he wants to tell on me about something here.
I
He's
know. Hold
probably
on,
going to
baby.
take
Hold
my
on.
most vulnerable point and expose it,
Come here.
which is
Okay.